Welcome back to the Tailosive Tech Podcast, ladies and gentlemen. We're still experimenting. I'm not going to tell you what service or program we're using. It's a secret. No one's really going to know what it is. But regardless,
Little secret.
Mike, we have an event upon us. This is
It's
our
on
last
me?
episode.
No wonder I felt this weight on my shoulders this whole time.
It's all on you. We've got Dub just around the corner, our final episode, and there's still last-minute rumors and leaks coming in. The most recent one actually kind of sparked a surprising amount of online discussion. It's Apple wanting to take out the passwords option in settings, which I've actually had to use quite a bit. It's right here, right above mail.
Yep.
Whoop, it's gone. You can't see it.
Okay. Personal hotspot. That's what we want.
There. They're going to take this and turn it into its own dedicated app, which some people thought, oh, they want to make a LastPass competitor. You know, they want to be more aggressive with password things. And I thought the motivation was, no, it's not necessarily like more features. It's just that they want more people to know how to access iCloud Keychain, and putting it in settings among all these other things is too much, which sparked this debate that I've been having with a lot of people now on, in general, do you think iOS natively, when you boot it up, does it have too many apps, or should they condense a few? Like, could we start condensing? Some people have suggested putting the phone, the FaceTime, and messages all into one app, and you just switch between, do you send text, or are you making a call? Do you want to do FaceTime? Some people just want to consolidate and simplify. I'm curious, do you think there's a change they should make?
I'm not too sure. My first reaction to this news is, why doesn't the AirPods get this app love?
Thank you. Thank you.
This is something that, even though mine are out of commission right now, it would be nice to have a dedicated app for that. Passwords, I think it's fine as is, but if we're really wanting to just change up some menu items and turn them into apps and be a little bit more aggressive on that front, okay, let's see how it goes. And which in the next iOS update, we could just fold it back in if it doesn't work out well, or maybe a couple iOS updates afterward, because making it fold back in the next update kind of looks a little bit bad in terms of PR. So I guess I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I'm comfortable with what I have right now. So for them to change it up might be something that we need to shake things up, but it's a password manager. So how much are we just shaking up here? It's not the most revolutionary thing.
No, it might literally just be as simple as people weren't using it in the settings app, and it's really helpful and useful. So let's just take exactly what's in the settings app, put it on the home screen so that people know, oh, what's my password to that? Oh, yeah, there's an app for that now. Remember that campaign? There's an app for that.
I think the nice thing about it not being an app is that it's hiding in the settings. And if someone really wants to get to your password for some reason, they have to do some work to get through the settings app to get to it.
Well, and it requires, for you to open it, it requires the biometric a second time.
Right. I like the idea that someone sees the password app on your phone, taps on it, and then it immediately comes up with a pop-up saying, Face ID not recognized. Put in the manual PIN.
If it's the wrong face, it should just take a photo and save it and then lock so you can't delete it. Here's someone who tried to open the password.
Actively shows the photo of you and then shows the locking animation aggressively at you with a red lock or whatever. Just to prove
turns that picture into the wallpaper. Yeah.
Adds a clown nose and clown hair and all that.
And then whenever it's just Face ID makes a mistake, it just takes a really bad photo of you and makes it your wallpaper. This is a good idea. I like this. This is smart.
I don't know. I don't. Kind of weird. Kind of weird to make an app, in my opinion. I don't think about it now. You know, this does make sense. Why are you doing this? If you are doing
I'm fine with it, but I mean, like, on the top of people's lists for like dub predictions, I think the one I've seen the most is calculator app on iPad. That's got to be at the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Insane.
I'd agree. That would be great, or at least some maybe some developer integrations with iPad to where you can maybe not developer, but at least if we are treating the iPad more like a companion device these days, why not have some nice companion apps for the Vision Pro?
Hmm.
That would be an interesting idea for
Oh, there you go.
dub announcements.
You could bring the Experience Dinosaurs thing to the iPad so that you see what the person wearing Vision Pro is seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And you move around and be like, oh, yeah, there is a butterfly.
Sure. Or maybe more enhanced experiences with Vision OS, where we used to be able, or I think we are still able, don't know why we aren't anymore. We can use our phone or iPad to kind of show what a device looks like in our space if we're looking at like a studio display or Mac or something else like that, making it a little bit
Yeah.
more
That's a
immersive, not
thing.
just with their own store on apple.com, but also with other, like maybe coming up with some agreement with Amazon to have 3D renderings of their products and you can view it in your space with Vision Pro. I think that'd be a great usage of that technology, but that would
They
require
have
them to,
something like that, I think.
yeah, or partner up with places like IKEA or Living Spaces or Target
I
to,
swear they have done that. Like there's got to be a feature you tap on it and it's like view in living room or something. I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure they have.
but at least build up a space. Maybe it's its own app, but maybe it's powered by Living Spaces or powered by
Mm.
Target or Walmart, where you can select a bunch of items that you might want to fill up a room that maybe you're redesigning your guest room or something like that, and you want to
Yeah.
try to figure
You
out.
want AI to design it.
Oh God,
That's what you're saying.
no, that's the opposite direction of how I was going, Drew. I want more
Wow.
curate.
Apple Intelligence. That's what everyone's actually talking about
What is Apple
with
Intelligence,
AI.
Drew? I don't know what this is.
It's a marketing gimmick to get to get Apple's name into the AI conversation.
Okay.
Both Apple and artificial start with the same letter. And Apple probably doesn't like the term artificial. AI is a very old term that is suddenly being used all the time. So Apple's trying to figure out how do we get people talking about us when we talk about AI? And it's throw off the acronym. They said any time in the past where we said the letters AI, we were actually referring to Apple Intelligence. That's what this all comes back to.
Sure. I guess in the definition of artificial, it is considered to be if it's of a person or a behavior, insincere or affected. So it
Not a
might have
great
that
look.
connotation as well. So having intelligence in your name might be just that much more, maybe not luxurious, but it connotes something or denotes. Denotes. It's a
I don't
lot.
know these words.
Big word mean it sound better marketing wise.
I'm having way too much fun.
This
with
man has a
I apologize.
soundboard. Hopefully it's not going through, so that way it's just even that much more awkward.
I hope it's like 4 times louder than our voices.
Someone's just casually driving on their morning commute, and all of a sudden a very loud audio file just plays, and they have now swerved into the oncoming lanes thanks to you, Drew.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I don't know what. I'm not too sure. So with Dub around the corner,
Yes.
we did talk about in the last podcast some of our wishes, and then we also at the beginning of this podcast divulged some things that might be there or what would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe we should add some predictions to this.
Okay.
We already have with our original predictions that we made with Randy. Rest in peace, Randy.
Wherever he is.
Yeah, we did have a tally for how many times Apple says AI, but that might actually be a very small number if they're more trending towards Apple Intelligence or AI, Apple Intelligence. There we go.
What
So
was
that
my
way,
guess? I forgot.
Randy predicted 45 times Apple would say AI. I said 30. You said 70.
I think it was like 60 when they did 5G.
Jeez.
And
So
that was like a 1 hour event. So this is supposed to be like 2 hours. And I was like, they only brought 5G to the iPhone. They're probably going to bring AI features to the whole ecosystem.
mhm. Or not. They'll just not let iPad have it. And it'll just be another thing that
Except the
iPad doesn't
iPad.
have.
That's the only one.
The
that
Apple
doesn't
Watch
need
will
it.
get it. Heck, the AirTags will get it, but not the iPad.
Oh my god. AirTags. How are your AirTags, by the way? Have any
Fine.
of them died?
I think we replaced the battery and we have 4 of them. What happened to the 4 or 3 of them? How
It
many did you
died.
get? 3 or 4? We've got one in the truck that every single time I go into it, because my wife registered it and I guess we haven't toggled maybe some setting, it always
Mhm.
warns me that it's saying, "Hey, your wife can track your location when you're with this device right now." And which already she has me on Find My, so it makes no difference.
Yeah,
But
right.
they've
But
been fine. It's a great way for us to see where the truck is if we forgot where we parked it. And
yeah,
I
I'm thinking about getting one. I'm not sure if I care
what?
enough.
Drew needs an AirTag?
Just like if something happened to the old car, if I wanted to track it down, then I'm like, do I want to track it down?
That's what I was thinking. Is it worth getting an AirTag in which
That's
you've
like $20.
$20 to track a car that you don't really care about, Drew?
Mm,
What are you thinking?
yeah, you're talking me out of it. Anywho,
Good.
there's
Predictions for
there's rumors today
WWDC.
dropping about some changes for iMessage. Like I said before, I cling on to any rumor that's not an AI related rumor.
Mhm.
And this one is not that. So I'm interested. But they're saying iOS 18 might add the ability for you to react to messages with any emoji. That's going to be fun in the group chats with SMS. And
Right.
then also the ability to schedule messages to send later. This is an interesting one.
I like that.
I've had people ask about this. I
Got the
Oh,
reactions
shit.
working.
There you go.
Wow.
Beautiful. macOS Sonoma has fantastic reactions, and they actually will show up on video. That's good too. What are the use cases for this? Because this is something that I've heard other people in my life ask about that I haven't found applicable. So, in what situation would you want to schedule a text?
It's mainly for those times when I remember I need to text someone something, but I know they're not available until whatever time in the day.
Mm,
And rather than
okay.
sending it at a time that they probably don't want it, or I don't know, maybe I'm busy, or I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to get
Mm,
is that it offers some opportunity for messages that you want to send, but you don't want to send at that moment. Uh, that capability. I'm
mhm.
I had so many. This is something that I was actually thinking about last year and thought it'd
Yeah.
be a great feature, but I'm forgetting a lot of the use cases that I came up with at that time. But being able to schedule messages at certain times, whether it is, here's a good one. You, me, and Randy typically have to schedule this podcast, and we have to figure out what day we're recording and at what time works for us.
Yeah.
What would be nice is just having an automated message every single week asking, "Does this time work for us?"
Yeah. Well, that's not a text problem. That's just a reminder.
Well, it changes every
Put it
week
in the
for us.
calendar. Yeah, that's true. It
So
does change.
it would be nice to have I mean, you could even schedule it out like maybe a week later or a couple weeks later would be nice, but pretty
Happy
much,
birthday text. I'm gonna
yes.
schedule you that once a year. I'm not even gonna
I'm
imagine
not
if
even
we had like a
messaging you.
falling out. We got really mad at each other and we stopped talking. But then like 6 months later, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, bud. Hope everything's well.
That's a good idea. Automatically generate an AI text message wishing a personalized birthday
It's
message.
like having a reminder every year on your calendar that says call grandma. and grandma's been gone for about 5 years now.
Oh gosh.
I have that for my grandma's birthday. She's long past at this point, so it is one way to recognize,
sad.
this is when grandma was born, or this is when she would have turned, I don't know, some age, something high in the
Wow.
90s, or okay.
Well, to whiplash this conversation back to the texting after that morbid story.
What are you talking about? You're the one who brought up being angry at each other by having an automated birthday message.
That's not morbid. That's
Scheduled
just
messages,
funny.
I think, are something that we need, or maybe
I'm not
need, but it
I'm
would
not
be a nice feature.
complaining, but here's my only pushback. I'm not saying I'd be mad if they added that. I'm just saying to the people who've wanted that for a while, my only pushback is, isn't that the point of texting in the first place? Isn't the whole reason we transition from phone calls to texts is I send this text when it is convenient for me. You respond when it is convenient for you. That's the whole beauty of texting, right?
Yeah, but in some cases, I'm thinking it's in times when, okay, here's a good one. It's 3 a.m. I have an idea that I want to share with you. I'm not going to
Yeah.
text you at 3 a.m. I don't want, even
Why
if you've
not?
got notifications turned off in the night, I don't know that.
Mm.
And I don't want to ping you at 3
Well,
a.m.
it'll
with my
say
idea.
focus, like do not disturb, right?
I suppose so, but maybe some people don't use focus and they'll get awakened by that notification, whether they've got the ringer on or off.
So it's a skill issue, is what you're saying.
No, it's more of a tool to, if you wake up in the morning at like 8 or 9 a.m. after being up at 3 a.m. for some reason, to not forgetting this crucial piece of information that you want to send to someone via text message, that it's already scheduled out. So whenever they get up at 7 or 8 or whatever, you have that scheduled text message or iMessage, whatever it is, that instant message ready to go. So that way you're able to send that query to someone without having to have your brain remember or have the message deleted because iMessage forgot to keep that info cached in its system. So being able to retain that information and then send it however time you want is a great tool.
Okay. Well, I hope that ends up happening. I'm probably just complaining now, and then I'll get it and use it all the time. Be like, there's the other use case I could imagine, which I'm not sure I feel comfortable with, and I'll probably use this as well, is kind of manipulation, which maybe is not up to the device. Mike's face was just like,
What the hell is even that?
but just like, when you maybe you're, let me think of a good example. Okay, so like you told someone that you're gonna bring a homemade dish to the dinner party, right? You got busy, whatever, something come up, you didn't have time to make the homemade dish. So instead, you're like driving to this person's house and you run by the grocery store, which is, and let's say this is someone nearby. I know this is a very specific.
This is so specifically convoluted.
You're like 5 minutes away, but the grocery store is 10 minutes away in the opposite direction. So you're like, I'm going to be driving. I don't want to text while I'm driving. I want to send a text that I'm on my way over when I'm actually 5 minutes away, when in reality, I'm coming from a different part of town. So you like schedule the text to send, even though you're at the grocery store picking up something that you'll make into a homemade dish.
Insanity.
It's like, that's I don't know. That's just something off the top of my head, but I'm saying there's situations like that where people might send a text to convey something that is not the truth, and having the ability to schedule it. I don't know. We kind of do this already, I think, with read receipts in a way.
Yeah, but some people turn that off. And by some, I mean
I would say most people turn it off, and it kind of annoys me because I'm more of the like, why do people leave off read receipts?
So that way they don't notify the person whenever they look at it, because they don't want that information to be shared on when they look at your message.
dig deeper. Why would someone not want that information to be shared? It's because they're afraid / concerned that the other person will see that they read it, be impatient that they didn't respond, and therefore reach out again. Like, why aren't you responding? You read the message.
Yeah, it's me every single time you read my messages, Drew, and then ghost me. Come on, dude.
See, I love read receipts, and I've always been like, I don't care if they know that I've read it. The whole point of the text is, if I have an answer for you and I have the time to respond, I will. If I read it but I didn't respond, it's because I either don't have the time or I don't have the answer to said question. So I'm more of the, I would pick up my family's phones and like turn on read receipts so I could show them like, hey, it's fine. I think it's a irrational fear, but maybe other people have more legitimate fears for it. But
yeah,
I don't know. I think it's one of those things where people will see a notification, right, on their lock screen, and they can read the text, but they choose not to open it. They choose to keep it as a blue bubble because they're like, I don't want the read receipt to be sent yet.
Right.
You see what I'm getting at about like using texting to manipulate the other person to be like, I don't want them to know that I've read this. I would rather them think that I haven't read it, which is a fascinating, this is an amazing social dilemma to me that the scheduling texts could help enable,
Yeah, it's a way to either, I see it more as a tool of, I forgot to send this to someone, where you schedule it out so you don't have to forget, or you can forget, and you don't have to feel guilty about it because you already sent it in the past. It's just scheduled for something in the future. It's like scheduled emails, I think those are a thing still.
Yeah.
So I would
just like scheduled tweets and posts and stuff too, but that's more, public sharing information and stuff, and
right,
trying to optimize algorithms. But I could just visualize a situation where someone who likes to plan things, my wife would probably use this feature, but she has an iPhone 10, so she won't get iOS 18. But if you'd be like, okay, I need to text this person in the morning and ask, where are we hiking, or what would you like to get for breakfast? So you just schedule it, but then you oversleep your alarm, you forget to set your alarm or whatever, or you snooze too many times. And now that text gets sent and the other person's like, oh, they're awake. They're asking where we want to get breakfast. And then you reply, and then you're asleep. I don't know. I just think humans are weird, and the way we use our phones is weird. The read receipt one in particular is funny, and I could see the scheduled text thing being, I don't know. I might schedule some texts for you.
I can't wait to see what these schedule. It's going to be like at 2 a.m. Just, why do you think ducks are the only birds that can fly backwards?
Ducks? I thought hummingbirds could do it.
No.
I'm going to need Gemini to answer that one for me.
Hey, Gemini's been a great tool. If we're getting into that.
Insanity.
Even though that this is the tech podcast, on the EV podcast a while back, we're talking about the R2, and I created a thumbnail with Gemini image generation.
Oh, yeah.
Which is really cool. And
I've heard Gemini can help you make pizzas, though. If
with glue and all that.
Ingredients aren't sticking together. Yeah, it's good advice.
Right. Yeah, just use glue. Everything will be great. You're having too much fun with that soundboard.
That was just me. That wasn't the soundboard. That was after eating a glue pizza made by Google.
Sir.
My favorite pizza toppings.
But
will they talk about Siri a lot, you think, or are they just going to rename it? Like, is this an Internet Explorer situation where they need to rebrand it in order to save face?
I think it's rebranding something that is already this is the Apple way, right? It's something that everyone knows is one thing, but they're going to call it something else and have their own spin on it.
That happens a lot. Yep.
So it's inevitable for whatever intelligent tools that they're bringing to WW. But I don't know. They come up with some things that are interesting, like the new pencil where you can squeeze in all that. I think those are things that people weren't really thinking of. And shadows, which isn't really a useful utility, but
It's cool.
It is kind of cool to see.
It's flexing.
So it's stuff like that where it's attention to detail in areas that you wouldn't expect, or something that you'd expect, and it's actually a little bit more deeper in terms of quality, such as like the dynamic island. What was first thought of as just a weird looking notch turned out to be something that's very useful for a lot of different software use cases for monitoring pending tasks or anything else that's going on, live view and everything. So it's something like that I'm hoping to see from this year's WWDC, is things that I didn't know that I wanted, but now I really want. Sell me on your OS for
That's a good request.
At least on iPhone or Mac, or like what we mentioned in the last podcast or the podcast before, like really, really useful tools that are maybe not the most general audience utilities, but something that the quote unquote pros would appreciate greatly.
I'm now thinking about it now that you mentioned the dynamic island and kind of how Apple built in some multitasking features that only the island can do that the notch can't. I mean, they probably could make the notch do it. They just choose not to. But I was thinking there might be some voice assistant features that they really bake into the island now and be like, oh, well, this feature works really well with dynamic island, just to try to motivate people to get a 15 or a 14 Pro. No, they don't sell those. So yeah, just a 15. Just get the newer iPhone, because that lets you show all the generative text on top of whatever you're looking at, and you can look at the page and
Wow.
yeah, I think there will very clearly be software features that could be added to older hardware that they will actively choose not to. I feel like that's a running theme I'm getting with Apple lately. And I've heard that the iPhone sales probably aren't where they'd like them to be. I mean, they'd like them to be sold out forever, right? That would be ideal.
That'd be great.
Everyone we make sells immediately because of AI. It's impossible to beat. But yeah, I think the A17 Pro chip. I don't know, that's a good question. Do you think that A17 Pro will give things that the A16 can't do, or will the cutoff
look
be
more into what
down?
these chips are capable of, because I've got zero knowledge on the hardware.
Ray tracing.
Yeah, right.
That's it.
Stuff like that. I don't know. Probably. Does the previous chip probably have that capability? Yeah. Is it going to be worth it for whatever it can do? Maybe. But I don't know. I don't have an educated guess on it besides probably.
Fair enough.
Because at least a lot of the things that iPhone does isn't necessarily computationally intensive for a lot of use cases. It's usually pretty mild. But they like to flex it that their chip can do a whole bunch. It's just, what does it look like in reality?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this then. If I'm looking for more opinions we may disagree on. Do you think AirPods should have a display?
No. I think that's a very bad idea, having a display on the AirPods case. Because already, I dropped this thing a couple times because I'm a clumsy person. And it just bounces wildly everywhere. The AirPods fly out and get all dirty because the case decides, oh, I've fallen. Open up the escape pod door, the pod bay door, Hal, and there goes the pod.
Open the door, Hal.
Yeah, the pod bay door opens and the pods leave.
My sister just bought like these knockoff AirPods for $20, and they have a display with the battery percentage on the outside. And you don't think that's worth it?
I think LEDs are enough for displaying battery use. The one LED on the front of the Pro's case, I think is passable. I think they can do a little bit better because all it does is show an off state, a sinking state, or a battery is full / good, or battery is probably need to be recharged soon. Where I think maybe 2 more LEDs would be nice to pretty much show like, here's what the battery state is, whether it's low, medium, or high. And then
orange, green, or white.
No, you do green because then it's like a stop sign or a stoplight.
Yeah. Stop.
Insanity.
It's not RGB, it's OGW.
OGBY.
No. That's not it. Yeah. What about like a really low powered, what's it called? Where you have like it's like 8 little light, like a microwave. You know how your microwave number, but just put a really low powered version of that here. It's not really a display, but it's just enough light to give you
you know what it needs?
2 to 3 digit
what
number.
we talked about in the last podcast, a e-ink display on the front.
Ooh, that would be cool. Except
that I'm okay with.
In the dark.
That's okay. You don't need to see it in the dark. Are you using your AirPods case in the dark for some reason? What are you doing?
Yes.
Why are you sitting in the dark listening to music?
It could be like in bed and being like, I want to listen to some music to help me fall asleep. So you open it up.
So you're saying in this case, it's connected to your phone. On and in this case, it is connected to your phone where seamlessly, it's almost like an iPod Nano or something like that, but just one step up, where it has a touch interface that you can click the play, pause, or skip forward, skip backward, or whatever. And you don't know what music. Well, I guess maybe it has a little running banner.
Well, you could voice control it. Yeah, or you could. This is Apple's Rabbit R1. They make a new device. AirPods now have AI with Apple Intelligence. They are capable. And then they put a little digital crown on the side. Yeah, it's just the R1, except Apple made it. It's plastic. They can make it colorful. It has a screen that's useless.
Find My capability.
You put a camera on there. Well, it's like, what else can you do with AirPods, right? They're probably constantly battling.
Update the Max. Update the Max.
Well, yeah. Oh my God. That AirPods Max were dated since the day they came out. It was on day one. It was like, well, that was stupid. Hope they fix that someday. And then it's been how many years now?
Too long. Too long, in my opinion.
Way too long.
Because I am interested. But
really? You like over ears?
Wearing them right now with my Sony's.
I thought that was just for the show.
No,
what about
I'm not actively listening to them. These are mainly used for podcasting and editing.
That's what I figured.
And then maybe it's mainly that when I'm trying to listen for a certain sound, or maybe there's a certain part in a song that I listen to with my AirPods or my vehicle or whatever. And I thought I heard something, so I wanted to get a little bit more detail into it with the Sony's and scrub in that video or that song for that specific time. But no, I don't carry these things around because I'm not that crazy.
Yeah,
I'm not that.
AirPods Max
I'm not that eccentric.
Sure, AirPods Max might be a little overkill for podcast recording. I don't know. It's up to you. It's your money, but
yeah. Well, not for podcasting. It'd be for listening to music while at work or walking around town or whatever. There was that one time when you were here. You were here recently in the Bay, and I pointed it out. I'm like, she's got AirPods Max. Look. It's just some woman minding her own business, walking around the mall, and she had some blue AirPod Maxes on. I'm like, Drew, AirPods Max.
Insanity.
Yeah, it's very common in airports. There's a lot of noises you don't want to hear. So in public,
don't do it.
Even where I live, I see a lot of AirPods Max. But
Yeah.
It makes me sad every time because I'm like, wow, $500 right there.
Well,
Meanwhile, my sister
wouldn't
was
a
like
screen
$20.
add cost to the pros then?
No, it would save money, I'm sure.
How would it save money, Drew? What does it do? You're adding complexity to the device that
No,
didn't have that complexity before.
You're right. It would absolutely cost more, but you're looking at that as a downside. If you're Apple, you say this costs $10 to add, so we charge $30 more for it. Margin has now increased. Also, there's talk that they want to add active noise cancellation and the rubber tips and stuff to non-pros. If they're going to add ANC and stuff to cheaper AirPods, what do you do with the pros to justify the added expense? You got to, that's my guess, is what they're experimenting with. Like, let's try to think of something the pros could have over the regulars that makes them fancier, better in some way.
Yeah, I guess so.
Paint it black.
But that would be nice. Adding color would be great. They could do the
color
whole
black.
iPod thing like they did before, where it's just the iPod and whatever color it is, and then the headphones and all that. They could do exactly that with the pros. It's just a pocket. Peeking out of the pocket is the pro case, but it's a different color, or it's got the screen on as well.
But I thought the pros always have the muted colors, and the regulars have more.
Yeah, that's the problem with it. So, are we
Just make
creating
it black.
regular colors? No. Then you're seeing all the smudges all over it.
What?
You're seeing the scratches and the smudges more if it's black.
I don't think you do.
I think
Just
you do.
the same.
Think of piano black.
It would. Yeah, I had a jet black iPhone 7. It looked really nice.
Yeah, but it still collects fingerprints and scratches a little. Well, not collects, but they're more apparent.
It's AirPods. You're not staring at the case. You're not.
That's what I'm saying. Why are you staring at the case for music selection?
No, it'd be it'd be like a widget. It'd be like take there's a good example. Just take like I gotta get one here.
No.
Not this one.
No.
Where's the music one? God, iOS is horrible.
Wow.
I can't find. Oh, it's because I deleted it. That's why. All right, TikTok as an example. Pretend this is a now playing widget. Just put that here.
Yeah.
You're using it for a split second. You're not like watching content on it.
So then why do you need a screen on there for a split second? So much hardware crammed into it.
Quick pause, quick skip, quick rewind, quick
click
scrub.
the stem. That's it. Why do you need to take the whole case
scrub.
out? Well, that sounds like something that you need to add to scrubbing on the AirPods.
That sounds really hard.
Well, no, think about the barrel roll feature on the pencil. Add that to the stem of the
so the AirPod just starts rotating out like this.
No, it's a physical touch situation where it senses, oh, there's movement, opposing movement. You have a shear or translating movement of fingers around the stem of the AirPods. And
but the pencil's physically rotating.
Yes, but you don't got to do that, because if you have a touch sensitive panel on the front and back of the stem, all you're doing is providing a movement in one direction with one finger and another movement in another direction with the other finger. And that is the device interpreting that as scrolling or scrubbing. That would be much better. But that's like a hardware update.
Yeah, that we're not getting that.
Which we're talking about hardware updates anyways, with adding a screen to the case, but I don't think that's needed. Adding scrollability, like at least with the
but you can't. A big part of scrolling and scrubbing is the visual, right? You need to be able to see the timeline.
No, you don't need to. You just said I'll use my voice to.
No, I said that would be bad. It would be, if I have a visual, it's a lot easier to say scrub to this part of the song or scrub to this part of the podcast. Like you could have the chapters in the little breaking points and you're able to scrub through them on here. How would I know how many chapters there are if I'm just listening, you know?
Why are you trying to cram everything into a device that doesn't need it?
Because they're out of ideas. I'm helping them.
By adding
this is-
complexity to the case that is already flawed by the fact that it drops on the floor and the pod bay door opens.
Okay, so that's on your wish list for the AirPods case.
Redesign the case so that
do I
way when you
lock
drop
this?
it doesn't make the pods fly all over the ground and get dirty, and then you spend like 5 minutes clean the pods because now they got dust bunnies on them or whatever.
Lock the pod day. Lock the
Pod
pod
day,
door.
Boda,
How? Lock the doors.
or Iris.
Insanity.
There's a way to do it. As far as this
magnets.
is hardware stuff for Dub. I'm sorry, I should be more focused on the software. I no longer own an Apple Watch. I'm curious. We haven't talked much about anything with WatchOS you might want. Oh,
I don't wear mine.
why? The battery
I've
just
joined.
died?
Well, one, when we're podcasting, the metal contacts
Wow.
the glass and creates noise on the mic. So that's annoying. And then,
What?
so the metal on the
What?
watch, what are you talking about?
I
What are
don't
you saying, what?
understand what you just said at all.
So my arms are resting on my desk, and the desk that I have is a glass panel desk. So
Nice.
when I'm resting my arms or I'm moving my arms around here and the small movements that I make,
Mhm.
the chassis of the watch hits the desk, and one, scratches, and two, creates noise. I don't like that. And even not even just on the chassis of the watch, but also on the watch band, there's some metal bits that also make contact with the glass and make noise. So I don't wear it during the podcast because it just is a cumbersome thing on
okay.
my wrist that makes noise. It's not even a big Apple Watch; it's a small one for the
But
Series
you
5.
wear it outside of recording.
Sometimes. Some days I put it on, some days I don't. And that
Interesting.
it depends on what I'm doing that day and if I need to look at the time or not. But otherwise, I'm starting to see the Apple Watch as kind of the annoying notification machine that's strapped to my arm. And it's sometimes good for looking at time, but otherwise it's just notifying me about you need to stand up right now, even though I'm standing up already. Or
Oh yeah, I turn that off. So
someone finished a workout or whatever, and I'm okay, great. Or the current one that I have right now is there's a group chat that I'm in that I can't disable the notifications for on the watch for some reason. It's disabled on my phone. I don't see the notifications for it on my phone,
really?
but on the watch, it's still notifying me. And I tried going through the menu to try to figure out
Don't
where.
you swipe the messages to the left or something?
No, because then that's a reaction.
No. Before you open the chat, when there's just
The panels of
the
message
panels,
groups.
you swipe, I think, it to the left, and there's either like a delete or a mute. I can't remember.
I'll look at it, but it, at least with the phone and the watch, they communicated on all of my messaging groups or DMs or
Mhm.
whatever, which notifications I want and which notifications I don't on the phone, which should be communicated to the watch. But for some reason, this one group chat that I'm in doesn't want to convey that information between the phone and the watch. So I'm just constantly game pinged in this giant group chat that I'm in. And it just won't stop, and I don't know how to stop it.
Now I'm wondering which group chat it is. So this is why, if you're replying to my message, you must be wearing an Apple Watch, because you leave me on mute.
What? No.
Otherwise, there's too many memes coming in.
So that's another thing that kind of deters me from wearing it, and why I'm a little bit more of an advocate of something like an Aura ring, but on the Apple side of things, where hopefully there's no, if they did make a smart ring, that they wouldn't include a subscription, because that'd be something that I'd be more interested in, is a ring that has longer battery life, but still smart capability for tracking things. So if I want to take a walk and I want to track that, done. Make an app.
It'd also probably be better for kidnapping.
Why do you think these
Insanity.
things?
If you got kidnapped, they would probably search you and be like, get rid of his phone, get rid of his Apple Watch, because those can be used to track you. I feel like they'd be less likely to reach for a ring. I guess they might. It has to look cheap.
I don't.
and
Yeah.
invaluable. Apple won't do that. Huh?
No. You need to go for something a little bit less luxurious and pricey.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Probably.
that's an interesting use case, or not use case, but thought.
Well, it'd be good for tracking if you have children, but you don't want to like give them a screen. to get distracted by.
My
but you
kid
just wanna
wears a
know where they
ring
are.
on their finger, and their hands are growing as the days goes on. So that ring is going to become obsolete in a month,
That's true.
or
Maybe a cufflink, just handcuff them. No,
is that just a watch at that
Insanity.
point? A hand cuffling. So, anyways, my point is, I'm kind of getting tired of the Apple Watch, and I'd like
I
some
got
new
tired of it
form
too.
factor for tracking fitness or something else, steps and anything else. I'd like that, like a ring,
So once
something I
again,
haven't thought of.
we have come to how could Apple make the Apple Watch better with the next generation of watchOS? And you say new hardware. Give it Ring OS.
Yeah.
Mm.
And which it won't even be Ring OS. No, you don't even need Ring OS because it would be pretty much just a app on the iPhone that's baked in.
That unlocks the fitness app, right?
Yeah.
You know how
maybe so.
normally you don't have the fitness app and
Mhm.
activity tracking and stuff, but when you get the Apple Watch, that app would appear. Now you buy the Ring, you don't have a watch, but those apps appear and it starts tracking everything.
Right. I'd like to see a teaser for that at WWDC. Is the Apple Ring, if they have that and are going forward with that idea.
It's not a terrible idea. I don't think Apple wants to acknowledge the existence of someone who might not want an Apple Watch. I think that would be hard for them.
They don't have to
They're
say that. They can
always-
say for those that like a more slim design. Well, no, that's still acknowledging someone doesn't want an Apple Watch. It's more for those that
acknowledges
have
a flaw.
for those that have a different use case in their fitness needs or their tracking needs. And here's the benefits of it.
Yeah. It would be an interesting marketing gymnastics, but
This is
it's kinda
day
like
30 of me bringing up the Apple Ring that doesn't exist on this podcast.
tagging Tim Cook on Twitter every day until
Yep.
he sees my Apple Ring request.
Wow.
But it can't have a membership. And what price would be outrageous to you? Like, obviously, the lower the better. But like, is there a price where you'd say that's the cutoff? I can't do that.
Let me look at the competition being the Aura Ring because their prices aren't as
They can see your screen now, by the way. This
oh
is
my
amazing.
goodness, you can see what I'm scrolling on the tabs and all that. Oh, an ad for Aura Ring.
It reminds me of my girl, where they say, "What's your aura?" And she says, "I don't think I can show you that. I'm too young."
What the heck, True? So Aura starts at their Heritage Watch, which is flattened on the top a little bit. Starts at like $299 or whatever, and the Horizon, which is a little bit more traditional, circular ring-like.
I got to admit, they're a little thick.
They are thick, but if it means that I don't have to worry about a watch in my wrist, I'm okay with it. It doesn't have to be super thin. And even so, this tech, if they develop it, over time it will get thinner because look at iPads. They've gone from being quote unquote
that's a good point.
thick boys to being very thin clipboards.
That's a good point. If there was any tech product that was in desperate need of being thinner, it's a smart ring.
Right.
I don't think anyone would care about, hey, we made the iPad even thinner. Most people are like, okay. Maybe they care about it being lighter, but you put it in the keyboard case, all the thickness claims go away. But a ring that gets closer and closer to this thickness instead of thick boy thickness, yeah, that would be more blend into the background. But it's, again, the whole thing with Apple Vision Pro was they would never say, now with Apple Vision Pro, you don't need an iPad anymore.
No. So they
would never say that.
So why would they say that about the ring?
I just feel like so many of the Ring's advantages all fall back to Apple Watch shortcomings, whereas the Vision Pro is like a different experience. Where
isn't that the same with the iPhone, the iPad, and Mac OS or the Mac?
Well, yeah, I mean, I would argue
it's not like the other.
Yeah, I mean, I'd argue iPhone is, the pocketable camera. The Mac is the productivity. The iPad is something. They don't know. You know what it is? It's the pencil machine. It's the only device that supports Apple Pencil. So if you want note taking and drawing, very hard to argue. But if it's media consumption, I don't know. I think Mac is probably better. If it's portability, the iPhone's better. The camera's better. AirPods are meant for, the headphone experience. Apple Watch is the fitness thing. It's the notification system, but it's also the big fitness emphasis. And I think the overlap with Ring and Watch is very, very high. The only argument is, well, the watch doesn't have as good a battery life. So you're right. There's a way they could phrase it. They'd be very cautious about how they phrase it, but there's a way. There's rumors in support of the Ring idea, but I'm with you. I don't want another membership.
And the reveal would look amazing because they already have a ring-like structure that they work in right now.
Oh my God. You're right. Has no one made that connection yet? That would be the best reveal. They'd be like, we're introducing a new product to our ecosystem today.
And they zoom out.
Here it is.
It's the park.
Drone shot.
But then it spins and whatever transition effect happens and it's whoop, Ring.
The Ring is like a mile long. It's way too big.
I'm a sucker for these transitions. So I'm down.
That would be a pretty
never go forward with it. I'd be very angry if they pulled like an AirPower with it and we're like, here it is, and then never release it.
Yeah, it's too hard.
At least it's a nice transition that we can all remember was very tasteful.
Yeah, Circle is pretty
Circle is tasteful.
Beat trademark, but you didn't. I don't know if you answered my question. Is there a price point that you would say that's too much?
So right now was the Oura Ring, like I said, starts at $300 and $350. I could see the if Apple made a ring, it starting at least like it could be at price parity, honestly, with the watch. I think I'd be okay with that.
Really?
Yeah, like 600 or whatever.
600?
Sure, 600 for. Well, maybe that's a bit much for a ring. So yeah, probably around like, honestly, 450. I think 450 is decent.
I could see the unveil, just like when they did the studio display. They're like, most reference monitors are $43,000, but ours is only $6,000, and everyone's like,
what monitors are you cross shopping with that?
And then they could say, most engagement rings are $3,000 to $4,000, but ours is only $1,000. They compare it to like the most diamond stuffed.
Here's the Tiffany rings that they're selling right now at the Westfield Valley Fair Mall, right across from our location there.
And they have the spreadsheet. Find my heart rate tracking. No
diamonds. Yes, no, but
okay, we don't have to. We'll make a special version, just like how they had the Apple Watch edition.
Our sensors use micro diamonds in them, so yeah.
We use a diamond-edged tooling technique,
so
there are diamonds involved in the process. Check. Actually, diamonds are unethically mined, so we didn't. So that they won't say diamonds on the spreadsheet. They'll just say ethically sourced, made in America. That's why it's expensive.
To transition on the idea of diamonds and away from Apple, since it seems like we've been talking about Dub for too long. I don't know if you caught. Finished. Okay, finish your thoughts, Mr. Diamond. Neil Diamond.
Well, Neil Diamond says that you could argue it's hard to bring production of all these other electronics to the US, but the Ring is such a random small tech product that doesn't require a display or anything complicated. It's kind of like the Mac Pro, how they always make that in the US, because it's like, well, it's, whatever, it's a Mac. So it's low volume. We don't need the best margins. So they could say, we're bringing more manufacturing to the US. And then they automate the Ring assembly so that only like 2 people work on the production. And boom, you can, on the spreadsheet comparing it to the diamond ring, say ethically sourced, union made ring.
Union made. Why would they?
Made in Detroit.
Why would they flaunt union made rings? What is this?
That's true. They don't like unions.
Automated.
All right. I'm done with the Ring topic, but I feel good about this now.
Okay. Well, with that, it seems like our predictions for Dub kind of hold the same on how many times they say Apple Intelligence, which might be the same as AI. We don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows what they'll announce in terms of hardware and software? I'm sure. Mac.
What will the next iOS be called?
I don't remember. Is it 18? Is 18 is what we're on?
Could be. We don't know. Not confirmed. Do you think there will be software at the next event?
No.
Wow.
It's all hardware.
Interesting prediction.
Yeah.
You get new iPhone. Anyway.
So what I was trying to transition to earlier is speaking
Mhm.
about diamonds. SpaceX. Oh, well, I totally butchered it.
What does SpaceX have to do with diamonds?
There's things called mock diamonds that are generated from the thrust on a rocket, where pretty much what it
Mhm.
looks like the little cones that appear behind the rocket engines
Yeah.
are called mock diamonds because it's gas, or at least liquid and oxygen mixed together, turning into a reaction. Pretty
That is
much
what happens.
it's a whole lot of aerodynamics and physics and all that. Anyways, footage provided that we're showing by NASA spaceflight and all that, they had some great coverage of the rocket launch from SpaceX's Starship that this happened yesterday for us, launched at like 7 a.m. their time, which is like 5
Yeah, this is
a.m.
the
our time.
first one I missed, actually.
Same. I got to work and then realized, oh, I didn't tune in for this.
It was too
Whoops.
early. I wasn't awake. I woke up and it was the tail end of the live stream.
There's some
The
mock
tail of the rocket was about to explode. It was very explosive.
tailosive. Ha.
Oh, that's a connection.
There we go.
Wow.
But
Oh my gosh.
I watched it after the fact, and it
Mhm.
seemed like there was progress on this launch.
Yes, which I thought was really exciting that it actually got back to Earth in almost one piece.
Almost. Yeah.
It pretty much did all the things that the initial mission wanted, or the last mission wanted to do. So it landed the booster in the ocean successfully without it plowing into there and basically becoming a ballistic missile going into the ocean. It landed softly into the
Yeah.
ocean and then tipped over and landed. And then
Landing it softly.
Right. And then the upper section actually got to go through reentry successfully. And we got
Good.
some really great visuals of it. And the fin on the side got pretty degraded at one point,
Mm.
and which apparently was predicted by the SpaceX team to happen, which I don't know how they fixed that. But
Yeah. Why did
Starlink-
they want that to happen?
I don't think they wanted it to happen. They just predicted it to happen. But the fact that
This is going to break. Let's try it.
well, there's some
Yeah.
things that you can predict will break, but it looked like an overall successful mission profile
Mhm.
with all the things that they wanted to check off, with it launching, having the booster land in the water, deploy whatever
Yeah.
they wanted to deploy with their Pez dispenser thing, deployment of satellite mechanism, and then re-enter and actually land in the water by doing the pancaking, or the pretty
What's
much.
that maneuver called where it kicks out?
I'd like to call it the pancake maneuver. I don't know what its actual name is. I've forgotten it at this
Belly
moment.
flop?
I think of belly flop. It's pretty much belly flopping through the air and then at the last second turn. So it's like
Pencil diving.
almost like what the Falcon 9 does, but even more severe because it's having to flip its orientation at the last second. But
Mhm.
yeah, it was pretty exciting to watch. I think the next flight is supposed to have the chopsticks catch the booster, which is gonna
That's
be
what
really
Elon
neat.
said. I don't know if that'll actually happen, but I did see him say they want to attempt catching the booster, which
Mhm.
is a very expensive test, potentially.
Right. With the hardware that you've already invested in at your site, you're now threatening its survivability. When
Yeah,
the
those
booster comes
towers,
back.
I mean, relatively they built it pretty fast, but still it was not a simple setup to stack that whole thing and put all the chopsticks on it and test them and calibrate them and stuff. So to send a flying rocket the size of the Statue of Liberty directly at that structure and
Mhm.
say land right there. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna make it on its first attempt. So
It'll be tough, but that was exciting to see. And then even was it the day before?
Mhm.
Boeing finally got a win for themselves with the Starliner launch by the rocket being an Atlas V by ULA, who has been they've had, I think, a 100% success rate on these rockets, the Atlas V and I think Delta as well, but mainly Atlas V. This is the rocket that's taken Mars rovers to Mars and many other payloads up. I think it's only had maybe one minor issue during launch and
very reliable.
Missions. But it's been very reliable. So the rocket I wasn't worried about. It was the capsule that I was worried about. And in fact, I've actually seen this view, by the way, that it was showing.
Oh, cool.
I had that exact same view when I was at
nice
Cape Canaveral last year. Almost very similar to this. But what was it? Oh, the capsule was the worry. And apparently when it got up to the space station, it got there almost in record time, in my opinion. It had some thruster issues with its reaction control system.
Oh, geez.
But it ended up docking with the International Space Station after figuring out some of those issues. And yeah, those astronauts, I think Sandy and I forget the gentleman's name, made it up there safe and sound. And they've been up there at the space station before. So it's really exciting to see their happiness of
Barry and Sunita. I think it's in the description.
Oh, yeah, right there. Yeah, Butch and Sunny. So
I see.
Good for them. Congrats to Boeing for finally getting a win. You've needed one this whole entire time. Because
I was going to say most Boeing flights are about as safe as the Starship flight.
The wing degraded and it was half holding on at the end, but we made it. We landed.
Hey, it landed in the ocean.
We're just missing a couple doors, but otherwise we're fine.
Didn't crash. Did an ocean landing.
Right. So 2 exciting rocket launches. One proving out prototype hardware that's supposed to be like the bus that's supposed to get us to different planets, and the other one being another commercial solution to getting people into space, where we're not having to rely on SpaceX for everything, which I fully support, because diversifying the transportation network to space is what we need, rather than just relying on someone to do all the work.
For sure. But they got to be competitive too.
Right.
I think the reason that SpaceX has dominated so much is because they've really figured out the reusability thing. So they undercut everybody. So if I would really like to see more rocket launchers try to do that, so that they can undercut in other ways, or at least increase the payload or whatever. But yeah, much easier said than done. It is quite literally rocket science. So
yeah, one that I'm really looking forward to that was actually catching up in terms of a timeline was Dream Chaser, made by Sierra Space.
There you go.
And this, for those that don't know Dream Chaser, it looks like the space shuttle that you recall that NASA made, but tiny. So instead of being a shuttle with a payload bay, it doesn't have a payload bay anymore. It's mainly for humans in there, and it'll have a trunk on the back that it'll take up to space with it.
Oh no, another crossover.
Right, it's a whole other crossover.
Oh, it looks cool though.
But
I like that design.
Let me zoom in. Yeah, it's really beautiful looking, and it'll take I think also launches on top of an Atlas V or a Delta rocket from ULA. So it's going to use the same ride like Starliner.
See, that addresses, in my opinion, the biggest flaw of the space shuttle was that it required so much expense on the first stage that the only reusable part was not that useful, or was so heavy that you had to have these giant boosters on the side. I mean, it's iconic. The space shuttle looks cool and everything, but that design that you're showing there, where the first stage is a lot more simple because you got your tanks and your booster all integrated, and we know you can make those first stages reusable. Now the second stage just, detaches once it gets to a certain amount, and then that's all it needs for space, and then it can come back and land. A reusable second stage is what SpaceX has been trying to work on so hard and still can't quite figure out. Falcon 9 even doesn't have a reusable second stage. So it does affect your payload quite substantially to have a reusable second stage. And the Starship approach seems to be, let's have the biggest possible second stage we can, which there's a ton of applications for, because the battle is all about how much weight, how much cargo can we get into orbit or beyond. But you're right, there's also a huge potential market, or a potential number of use cases for, we don't need a huge payload, or we don't need a ton of people to be sent up, but we just need a cheap, small, reusable, cost-effective second stage to get people up there.
Sure. So yeah, it's trending towards that direction, and at least with seems like ULA, the United Launch Alliance is what their full name is. Their ability to have a reliable launcher for commercial companies like Boeing and Sierra Space will be very invaluable, especially for those like Dream Chaser that will land on a landing strip like the shuttle, but it won't. It'll have a better glide slope than the shuttle, and it doesn't need to carry a whole bunch of other mass with it. It'll just be that small capsule. You think about like sci-fi movies where you think about like escape pods and all that, or even just like not even escape pods, because those are like rapid get out of there, but something that's a little bit more, maybe not cozy is the word, but something that has that ability to land on land without any problem, but also almost like a escape pod, but for uses that aren't as cramped or as complicated, in which I guess
non-emergency.
Yeah.
It's a go home pod.
Right. So something that just realistically makes a lot more sense for the occupants, rather than everyone climb into the bucket and close the top of it. It's now, let's get in the bus and take it back home. So,
Space bus.
The space bus. So,
that's like, we have buses, and then we have the Airbus. That's a common brand name. And then
that's European.
Space bus is the next the next iteration. But you're right, especially I think for Earth to Earth transport, which is something SpaceX has talked about doing, but I think we're still a long ways away from. The problem with the whole, whatever you call it, pancake maneuver, like where you belly flop in and then at the last second kick out and try to land, is it's very noisy, it's very loud, and you need those big arms to catch it, and you're not going to be able to put those very close to where people are. You're going to have to put them on big floating barges, or just way far out from the cities, because it's creating sonic booms all the time, and the rocket itself is super noisy. But if you could take an existing infrastructure like airports, which we have a lot of and people go to travel anyway, and you came up with some commercial way to land there, but take off from somewhere else, that solves half the equation. At least it means that the departure has to be far away from the city, but the arrival does not, which simplifies the amount of trip time.
Right. I don't think integrating space vehicles into public airports is a smart idea, but maybe making airports that are more of like spaceports, they're designated for orbital class vehicles to come back from orbit and land on these things, is a lot better, because then you're not having to fight for space or airspace with a 747 while you're coming in from from there.
Well, they have towers to manage all that.
I don't think I'd want to land my or be landing in a space plane while the quote unquote rush hour traffic at San Francisco's airport is causing me to delay my arrival.
You don't want to land at the same time as any plane. That's why they have flight paths and plans and stuff.
That's not as malleable for space planes as it is for airplanes. Airplanes have control of their thrust. Space planes typically probably don't. They're mainly just gliding down to decrease the amount of fuel that they need to carry with them upon reentry.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fairly strict schedule they'd have to abide by, but if you're gliding back down, I think there's a better chance of that. I mean, if it's basically treated like an aircraft, then you arrive close to your destination. Whereas the spaceports are not going to be close to people's destinations. You're going to have to take a huge train or bus from the spaceport to the city.
I disagree. I think you could put them in convenient locations that are out of the path of airports, but still aren't as far as an airport is to a metropolitan area.
It sounds expensive, but I mean, I think the issue is like a place that only people go to specifically for space travel, because I think that's not going to be incredibly popular. Whereas an airport covers so many travel distances. Like you go to an airport to go on a 1-hour flight or a 15-hour flight. So they can justify the expense of having all these places, all these planes and aircraft and gates and airlines all in one place. They're working together.
Sure. I'm talking more on a safety level for these tech or space transportation technologies where they don't have as much control of the situation as airplanes do. So
Yeah.
being able to delay your arrival is not easy for things like Dream Chaser. And even so, I think your ideas are great. It's just that's integrating spacecraft with aircraft, municipalities, airports. You're going to need to integrate more contingencies for these spacecraft so that way they can delay their arrival if necessary. If there's someone on the tarmac that isn't supposed to be there.
Or I would just say the guy coming from space has priority. So if that overlaps with an airplane that wants to land because it was ahead of schedule or something, then the airplane waits for the space bus.
Yeah, in which holding patterns do exist, but you don't want to have the 747 circle around SFO for 10 minutes waiting for the Dream Chaser or whatever else to come in and land, and then finally land the giant amount of, well, I guess 747s are probably dated at this point. 737 Maxes, how about that?
I just think that the spacecraft has a much more rigid schedule. It's not going to be adjustable. So they'll know by the time it takes off, this thing is definitely got to land within this like 2-minute window.
Sure.
So basically don't plan any 737 landings around that time.
So then in this hypothetical scenario, would you then integrate spacecraft launches from these airports?
Well, no, that's what I was saying earlier, is that the rocket launches are not going to be something you can easily integrate into a city. There's rules about sound that already apply to airports that would be extremely strict with a rocket launch. So that was my complaint with the whole SpaceX concept of Earth-to-Earth transport, is that both the departure and arrival locations have to be far away. Both of those are going to be the most time-consuming aspects because they're so noisy, and it's a risk, especially when you have a missile coming out of the sky with, not even gliding abilities, really. It's just coming in like a bomb and hope that it catches itself at the last second. Whereas a spacecraft that's capable of kind of somewhat emulating an aircraft by gliding with wings, and it comes in at a slower descent, and then the sonic boom can be further away from the city on the way down. Then at least your arrival location can be in a convenient place. Yeah, departure location is still going to be an inconvenient location because it's got to be further away from the city and where you want to be. It's not going to be in a residential area. It's got to be far away from everybody if it makes that much noise. But there's no way that we've found out yet to do like a single stage effective rocket system.
Right. Some single stage to orbit vehicle is not something within our technical capability right now.
Like Star Wars. That's what we all picture in the sci-fi movies.
Yeah, the X-Wing coming out of Mos Eisley, or the Millennium Falcon coming out of Mos Eisley up into orbit.
Yeah.
Goes to wherever and lands easy peasy.
That would be the dream.
Yet.
but the tech of a single stage is really complex. But two stage has seemed to be the most effective for us, getting out of Earth's extremely high gravity field. And I think that SpaceX is, I think I even remember Tim Dodd talking about this on the Lex Friedman podcast. He was the one advocating for SpaceX should consider making a Starship variant that can land a little bit more traditionally at airports and stuff, to just streamline and simplify a lot of the launches rather than this really intricate flip maneuver.
Sure. Even something like Virgin Galactic, what they do
Oh, yeah.
is pretty much a modified airplane carrying a space plane. And even though the space plane doesn't hang out in space too much, it is a closer approach to what you're thinking of. Is something that can be integrated with airports, where you can just take off of the runway like everyone else, fly it up to whatever altitude, decouple the space plane from whatever rig that got you up to that altitude, and then the space plane takes itself the rest of the way. So
yeah,
that's something a little bit more realistic because, well, we've seen proof of it with Virgin Galactic's space planes or plane.
I don't know if they make it. Do they make it orbital with that?
It's not orbital. It's suborbital.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's. So the way
it's
that
not meant for re-entry.
Blue Origin does it by it can re-enter. It's all about re-entry.
Where's the heat shield?
The thing is, it's suborbital, so it doesn't need. It's a very shallow suborbital path.
Right. So it's not heating up much.
No, it's not going too far up. It's almost like Blue Origin's New Shepard, where it just creases the Kármán line pretty much. Where Virgin Galactic's version of it also does that, but with Blue Origin, they pretty much are like a pin, making a pinhole into space.
Yeah.
Where Virgin Galactic's approach is they're like a skipping stone, where they come up, touch the surface of the water, but then come back out. It's an inverted skipping stone, if you were to think about it.
Yeah, and I think that for the Earth-to-Earth application, if you were using it for genuine transportation, that's the big appeal to the getting into orbit would be you could go from Australia to London within 30-40 minutes. And that just cannot be done with aircraft. Even supersonic aircraft can't do that. So if there was a way to commercialize that, you have an income stream to support the business model. It's going to be a pricey one. It's not going to be everyday people making those kinds of flights. But if there's easy arrival process, that helps reduce the time, because I think SpaceX is what they aren't acknowledging with their whole Earth-to-Earth concept is that, well, yes, the actual flight might be 30-40 minutes. Getting to and from the spaceport is going to be adding easily 4 hours, I think, to the overall trip time.
Yeah, that's a very I think that's even being very generous. Adding
probably more, yeah.
Think about when you have to go to an airport, how much time you have to allot just to get to the airport, quote unquote, on time.
True.
Before they start boarding and all that. So your flight leaves at 2 p.m. You need to be there. I think they recommend 3 hours early or something like that, or 2 hours early.
For 3 hours for international, or 2 for domestic.
So 2 to 3 hours. So that means you're getting there around 11, and then you have to consider security and all that. So maybe add an extra hour to it, because there's a whole bunch of people filing into the airport.
Will we have the TSA for spaceships too?
That's a good question. Yeah, maybe so.
I mean, there's not, at least on Starship, there's no way to pilot the thing.
No. So
you couldn't overtake the ship. So I don't know.
No, but you could cause some type of harm if you bring some devices onto it.
That's true.
So I
make sure your phone is in spaceship mode.
Wow.
That's I'm speechless pretty much. But something like the Concorde was somewhat close to that idea. Is it's hypersonic travel, where you're going.
Is there a difference between supersonic and hypersonic?
Yeah. One's quicker
I thought
than
it was
other.
supersonic.
Either way. We can get into the definitions later, but the Concorde
Okay.
was pretty much accelerated travel, but at a higher cost for both
Yes.
maintenance and also for passengers and everything else. So I see space planes either servicing kind of use cases like the Concorde, where the Concorde is able to go from Europe to America really quickly. I think things
Mhm.
like Virgin Galactic's or Dream Chasers approaches can do that too, and then land at a municipal airport and all that. Or they could service as ways to get to space, where you
Mhm.
can take it up into orbit. It docks at maybe not the International Space Station because that might be too old at that point, but some type of space station that is acting like another airport, but now it's a spaceport.
Yeah.
So the spaceport is there for strictly tourism, where
Yeah.
you're either taking the next shuttle to the moon or to Mars or to somewhere else, and or even just like, oh, it doesn't make sense to take. It's the whole. It doesn't make sense to take the direct flight, but it does make sense to take the connecting flight or the.
Yeah.
We need
Skip
to
lagging.
Yeah, we need to stop at the spaceport first before getting to Hong Kong for some reason.
Yeah.
So something like
Right.
that approach might be the way to go for a lot of these space planes, which I think this quote unquote sky's the limit here on what ideas and approaches we can take towards either space tourism or
Mhm.
using space planes for accelerated travel around the globe.
Right. No, it's cool stuff. It's fun to talk about.
Yeah, something that we don't
It's
typically talk about here.
technology.
Right.
Technically, get your mind off of dub so the countdown goes faster. But
Right. Not too long now. I think it actually comes out a few days after this will get published.
yeah,
So
almost there. So thank you all for tuning in. We'll try to keep you up to date with everything that goes down as soon as we can. And hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Bye.
bye.